Hello again, this is Rob Chadwick from ADL, and this is the 12th, I believe, video in a series of short tutorials on how to use the Virtual World Framework Sandbox application. Previously, we've kind of been building up this beautiful environment. Well, maybe not that beautiful, but it's not bad for a web page. But it's got some trees in it. It's got a 3D model we loaded from the ADL 3D repository. There's a terrain, and there's a sky, and there's some fog, and what have you. What I want to discuss today, it sort of breaks away from the thread of building this environment, and instead I want to talk about your inventory and how you can keep copies of things and organize them and name them and that sort of thing. Obviously, when you start building things of actual value and you've got some time and energy invested in this, you're going to want to be able to save copies of it. So I've spent just a moment creating something that has nominal value. Obviously, you might want to put some more effort into your shapes, but I had to make something that's fairly complex so that I can use it for this example. I've got a whole bunch of different objects here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them into my inventory and show you how that works. Maybe we'll give them a decent name as well. So in this case, I've got all these objects. What I want to do first of all is group them together. This is because the inventory will store objects individually. I could put each sphere and each cylinder into the inventory, but that would kind of miss the point because a lot of the effort involved in this is in putting these things together. So I've held Control while left-clicking while I'm in select mode here to do a multi-selection, and I've selected all the pieces. You can see that they're all selected, and I can double-check and be certain they're selected by dragging the Move tool. Good. So I've got them all selected. I'm going to group them into a single object by going to Hierarchy, Grouping, Group, and that's just a refresher from a previous lesson. Now you'll note when I click on this, I only see one bounding box, and I have this nifty little icon in the middle that tells me this is a group. Right? So there it is. And of course that green bounding box means that the group is closed. So I've got a group that's closed. Before I put it in my inventory, I want to give it a decent name. In this case, it's got an automatically generated name, which is really long and hard to remember and kind of useless because no one can remember it. Let's call it Pillar. All right, so I've named this thing Pillar. And now what I want to do is I want to put it into my inventory. Well, first of all, let's look and see what I've got in my inventory already. The inventory will load into the tray of panels on the side, just like everything else, and here's the button that pulls it up, a little stack of boxes. You'll see in this case, I've got a bunch of objects in my inventory. There's a whole bunch of things. Maybe I'll res one of these later for a demo. But in this case, I want to save my pillar. So I've got it selected. I've got the inventory open. You don't have to have inventory open, but it's nice that you can see this. I'm going to go to Edit, Save Copy. You'll see that what appeared right here and automatically selected is Pillar Group. So I've got a group of objects published to my inventory that is a group. Interestingly, let's click on it. If I hit View, I can see the actual code under the hood that kind of is this object. If you're trying to port objects from this Virtual World Framework application into some other Virtual World Framework application, you could copy and paste this code out of this window. I'm not going to bother too much with that right now. Similarly, I can select and delete an object. Let me see if there's anything in here I'm willing to delete. You know what? Let me just grab a tree. I'm going to grab a tree. I'm going to Edit, Save Copy. Here's Dead Tree 6. It's a 3DR object. If I just hit delete, it removes from my inventory. Now, one thing that's important to note is this inventory is private to you. I'll show you later how you can publish things for the world to see and use. So I'm going to select, and this is scary, right? But I put all this time and energy into building this stack of primitive objects, whatever. I'm going to delete it. A little bit scary. All right, so the object is gone. But I've always got a copy of it here in my inventory. Also, by the way, if I just go to rename, I click the rename button, and then I can type Pillar Demo, whatever, enter. That's all well and good. What I'm going to do is select it from the inventory, look at the ground somewhere and hit Create. And this is just going to pop that object back into the world. Even if I log out and I log back in, and you'll note, just like all objects, it appears right where its center point intersects with the ground. So I have to pull it up a little bit so it sits nice. So that's it. I've put an object in my inventory, and I have created multiple copies of it. Obviously, when I'm in this world, I can copy and paste this object, but if I were to ever delete all of them, the only place to get it back would be from the inventory. Now, there is another feature here which is very much like the inventory, except it's publicly accessible. If you log out and log in as a different user, you create multiple accounts, this is going to be private to that account. One thing that is important is the way the permissions are currently structured. You can save a copy of someone else's object, and then it just becomes your object. You can't modify theirs directly, but you can copy theirs and then modify the copy. Maybe one day in the future we'll start looking into really enforcing, this object has digital rights on it and really cannot be copied or saved or moved. But in this case, you can always save into your inventory someone else's stuff and it becomes yours. Let's look at something else. Let's go to Windows, and there's no button on the toolbar for this. But let's go to Windows, Public Inventory. This public inventory is just like the regular inventory, except for the fact that you own the object, or rather, everyone owns the objects that are in here, and they can res copies of them. You can only you can remove your objects. So I'm going to take my pillar, and I'm going to edit, and in this case it's just slightly different. It's publish rather than save copy. Edit publish, and you'll see the pillar just appeared right here. Now this one doesn't say pillar demo, it's pillar 1 because it's a copy that I resed into the world. So here's pillar 1. It's very similar, and this setup works very similarly, but anybody else in the world who wants to create a copy of this pillar, it's now published for them to find here and go res in their worlds. One thing that is kind of a to-do is to allow you to categorize these things. There's a lot of objects in here already that I've created that are categorized by me, and there isn't really a way for you to put these objects into categories right now. We're going to be doing some work on this global inventory to make it a really full repository service with search and descriptions and metadata and what have you. For now, this is actually a good place to come to see demos of different kinds of things that are possible to create, because usually when I make something, I'll save a copy of it in here.